What if I told you that right now, as you watch this video in comfort, there are people living in places so extreme that survival itself is a daily miracle? Villages perched on cliffs thousands of feet in the air, reachable only by wooden ladders. Towns where the temperature drops to -70 degrees, cold enough to freeze your breath into falling ice crystals. Communities living inside active volcanoes. Villages where the sun does not rise for months. Settlements so remote that the nearest hospital is a 3-day journey away. These are not stories from the past. These are real places, with real people, living extraordinary lives at the very edge of human possibility, right now in our modern world. Welcome to Hidden Horizons Studio, where we journey to the places most people will never see. Today, we are traveling to the 35 most extreme villages on planet Earth. Places where humans have defied deserts, mountains, ice, and isolation to build homes where no one should be able to survive. Some of these villages will amaze you, some will terrify you, and some will make you question everything you thought you knew about the limits of human endurance. Before we begin, I want you to do something. As you watch, ask yourself one question: could you survive in any of these places? Keep that question in mind, because at the end of this video, I am going to ask you which village you could actually call home. Drop your answer in the comments and let us see who among you has the spirit of a true survivor. And stay until the very end, because the final village we visit is so dangerous, so isolated, and so extreme that the people who live there have quite literally chosen to live where the rest of humanity fears to go. This is the journey to the edge of the world. Let us begin. We begin our journey at the very roof of the world. LINCONADA sits at an astonishing 5,100 meters above sea level in the Peruvian Andes, making it the highest permanent human settlement on the entire planet. At this altitude, the air contains barely half the oxygen your body needs. Approximately 50,000 people live here, drawn by one thing: gold hidden in the surrounding mountains. But the conditions are almost unimaginable. There is no running water, no sewage system, no heating, despite temperatures that stay below freezing year-round. The town sits on a glacier that is slowly melting, and the entire settlement is contaminated with mercury from gold processing. Here is a question for you to consider. Would you risk your life in freezing, oxygen-starved conditions for the chance to find gold? Because that is exactly the gamble that 50,000 people make every single day in LINCONADA. Most of them will never strike it rich. But still, they climb higher into the mountains, chasing a dream that keeps this impossible town alive. From the highest town, we travel to the coldest. Deep in the Siberian wilderness lies OYMYAKON, where the temperature once dropped to a mind-shattering -71.2 degrees Celsius. That is cold enough to freeze your eyelashes together, shatter metal like glass, and turn boiling water into ice crystals the instant it hits the air. Around 500 people call OYMYAKON home. Life here follows rules that seem impossible. Cars must be left running 24 hours a day because their engines will freeze solid if switched off. The ground is permanently frozen, so burying the dead requires days of thawing the earth with bonfires. And the school only closes when temperatures fall below -52 degrees Celsius. Just imagine waking up every morning to that kind of cold. The people of OYMYAKON have adapted by eating a diet of raw frozen fish, reindeer meat and horse blood because their bodies need enormous amounts of calories just to stay warm. How long do you think you would last in a place where even breathing hurts? Now imagine building your home inside the crater of an active volcano. That is exactly what 170 people have done on the tiny Japanese island of AOGASHIMA. The entire village sits within the crater of a volcano that last erupted in 1785. Killing nearly half the population at the time. Despite the danger, the survivors returned and rebuilt their lives inside the very crater that had destroyed them. Today, the villagers use the volcanic heat to cook their food in natural steam vents. The island is so remote and the seas so rough that boats can only reach it about half the time. To leave or arrive often requires waiting days for the weather to cooperate. The volcano beneath their feet is not extinct, it is merely sleeping. Scientists agree that another eruption is not a question of if, but when. Yet the people of AOGASHIMA continue their peaceful lives, growing crops in the rich volcanic soil, seemingly at peace with the sleeping giant beneath them. In the frozen Arctic, closer to the North Pole than to mainland Norway, lies one of the strangest towns on Earth. In LONGYEARBYEN, it is actually illegal to die. This sounds impossible, but there is a chilling reason behind the law. The ground here is permanently frozen, which means buried bodies never decompose. Decades ago, scientists discovered that corpses in the local cemetery still contained live samples of the deadly 1918 influenza virus, perfectly preserved in the ice. To prevent the spread of ancient diseases, the town stopped allowing burials. Anyone who becomes seriously ill is flown to the mainland. Life in LONGYEARBYEN holds other surprises too. Every resident must carry a rifle when leaving town, not because of crime, but because of polar bears that outnumber people in the region. the sun disappears completely for 4 months every winter, plunging the town into total darkness. Would you be able to handle 4 months without ever seeing the sun? Here is a place that sounds like something from a science fiction film. In the remote Alaskan town of Whittier, almost the entire population of 270 people lives inside a single 14-story building. The post office, the school, the grocery store, the police station, and the church are all under one roof. The reason is simple. Whittier suffers from some of the most brutal winter weather in America, with howling winds and snowfalls that can bury entire houses. By living inside one building, residents can go about their entire lives without ever stepping outside during the worst of winter. Children even walk through an underground tunnel to reach the school. The only road into Whittier passes through a narrow 1-lane tunnel carved through a mountain, and that tunnel closes every single night. For hours at a time, Whittier is completely cut off from the outside world. Could you live your entire life inside one building, sharing every space with your entire town? Hidden deep within the Grand Canyon lies the most remote community in the continental United States. SUPAI is the capital of the Havasupai tribe, and it sits at the bottom of a side canyon so isolated that the only ways in are by helicopter, by hiking 8 miles, or by mule. This is the only place in the United States where mail is still delivered by mule train. Every letter, every package, every supply must be carried down into the canyon on the backs of these sure-footed animals. The 200 residents live surrounded by some of the most spectacular waterfalls in the world, with turquoise blue water cascading over red canyon walls. The isolation is profound. There are no roads, no cars. The nearest town accessible by vehicle is hours away. And that is after the 8-mile hike back up to the canyon rim. Yet the Havasupai have lived here for over 800 years, guardians of a hidden paradise most people will never see. Rising from the endless sand dunes of the Peruvian desert like a mirage stands the tiny village of HUACACHINA. Built around a small natural lagoon, this settlement of around 100 permanent residents is completely surrounded by some of the tallest sand dunes in South America. According to local legend, the lagoon was formed when a beautiful young woman, fleeing a hunter, spilled the water she was bathing in, which became the oasis. The dunes that surround her, they say, are the folds of her dress. Whether myth or not, the oasis has sustained life in this brutal desert for generations. Today, the village faces a modern threat. the natural water table is dropping, and the once natural lagoon must now be artificially replenished to survive. Could an oasis this small and this fragile survive in one of the driest places on Earth? For now, it clings to life, a green jewel in an ocean of sand. Let us pause our journey for a moment, because it is time for our first quiz question. So far, we have visited 5 extreme villages. Here is the question. Which of these places did we say is so cold that it is actually illegal to die there? Was it A. OYMYAKON in Russia, B. LONGYEARBYEN in Norway, or C. RINCONADA in Peru? Think carefully and drop your answer in the comments below, letter A, B, or C. The correct answer will be obvious to those of you paying close attention. And do not worry, I will reveal the correct answer at the very end of this video, so make sure you stay until the finish. Now, let us continue our journey to the extreme edges of the world. On the surface of the highest navigable lake in the world floats one of the most ingenious human settlements ever created. On Lake Titicaca, at 3,812 meters above sea level, the UROS people live on islands they built entirely from reeds. For centuries, the UROS have constructed their floating homes from totora reeds that grow in the lake shallows. As the reeds rot away from below, the people simply add fresh layers on top. Everything is made from reeds: the islands, the houses, the boats, and even some of their food. The islands float freely, anchored only by ropes to the lake bed. Originally, the UROS built these floating islands to escape from more aggressive tribes on the mainland. If an enemy approached, they could simply move their entire village to a safer part of the lake. Walking on these islands feels like stepping on a giant waterbed, the surface constantly shifting beneath your feet. Would you be able to live your entire life on a floating island made of plants? On a remote cliff in the North Atlantic sits one of the most beautifully isolated villages in Europe. GASADALUR in the Faroe Islands is home to fewer than 20 people, perched above a dramatic waterfall that plunges straight into the ocean below. For most of its history, this village was almost impossible to reach. To get here, residents had to hike over a 400-meter mountain, a treacherous journey, especially in the fierce Atlantic storms. The postman made this dangerous climb several times a week to deliver mail, regardless of the weather. It was not until 2004 that a tunnel was finally blasted through the mountain, connecting GASADALUR to the rest of the world. The setting is breathtaking. Green cliffs, a cascading waterfall, and the endless grey Atlantic stretching to the horizon. But the isolation shaped generations of villagers who lived almost entirely cut off from the outside world, relying only on each other and the harsh but beautiful land around them. In the scorching heart of the Australian outback, where summer temperatures regularly exceed 50 degrees Celsius, an entire town has moved underground to survive. COBER PEDY is the opal mining capital of the world, and most of its residents live in homes carved directly into the earth. These underground homes, called dugouts, maintain a comfortable temperature year-round, protecting residents from the deadly surface heat. But these are no simple caves. COBER PEDY features underground churches, underground hotels, underground bars, and even an underground bookshop. From the surface, you might not even realize a town of thousands of people exists beneath your feet. The landscape around COBER PEDY is so alien and barren that dozens of science fiction films have used it to represent other planets. Living here means adapting to an environment so hostile that going underground is the only sensible choice. Could you spend your life living beneath the surface of the Earth? On the eastern coast of Greenland lies one of the most isolated inhabited places on the entire planet. ITTOQQORTOORMIIT is home to around 350 people, and the nearest neighboring town is hundreds of kilometers away across frozen wilderness. The sea around the town is frozen solid for 9 months of every year, meaning supply ships can only reach it during a brief summer window. For the rest of the year, the only way in or out is by helicopter, weather permitting. The people here survive largely by hunting polar bears, seals, and narwhals, maintaining a traditional way of life that has almost vanished elsewhere. The name ITTOQQORTOORMIIT means a place with big houses, though the reality is a small huddle of colorful homes against an overwhelming backdrop of ice and mountains. Living here requires a level of self-sufficiency and resilience that few modern humans possess. The isolation is so profound that some residents go months without seeing anyone from outside their community. In the sun-baked hills of southern Spain, an entire village has built itself into the shelter of a massive overhanging cliff. Setenil de las Bodegas is home to around 3,000 people, and many of their houses are built directly beneath a gigantic slab of rock that forms their ceilings. This clever arrangement has protected residents from the brutal Andalusian sun for centuries. The natural stone keeps the houses cool in summer and warm in winter. Walking through the village, you find streets that run directly beneath the overhanging rock, with whitewashed houses tucked into the shadow of the cliff above. But there is an obvious question that hangs over the entire village. What happens if the rock ever falls? Geological studies show the massive stone is slowly shifting, and cracks have been documented in the overhangs. Yet families have lived beneath these rocks for generations, seemingly untroubled by the enormous weight suspended above their heads. Would you sleep soundly beneath a mountain that could crush your home at any moment? Deep in a dramatic desert valley in Yemen sits a village that seems to defy the laws of physics. AL-JAZIL is perched atop a massive rock formation, its mud brick houses appearing to grow directly out of the stone itself, hundreds of feet above the valley floor. Built nearly 500 years ago, the village was placed in this seemingly impossible location for protection from raiders and tribal conflicts. The houses stack vertically up the boulder, accessible only by narrow, winding paths. From below, the entire village looks like a natural extension of the rock, a fortress of earth rising from the desert. The surrounding Wadi Doan Valley is famous for producing some of the finest honey in the world, harvested from bees that feed on desert flowers. But the village itself faces the constant threat of erosion as the rock beneath it slowly weathers away. How much longer can a village survive when the very ground it stands on is crumbling? Nestled in the Rif Mountains of Morocco sits a village unlike any other, a place where every wall, every door, and every staircase is painted in mesmerizing shades of blue. CHEFCHAOUEN, often called the Blue Pearl, seems to glow with an otherworldly color that has fascinated travelers for centuries. No one knows for certain why the village was painted blue. Some say the color repels mosquitoes. Others believe it represents the sky and heaven. Still others say it was introduced by Jewish refugees who considered blue a sacred color. Whatever the reason, the effect is magical. A maze of blue streets winding up the mountainside. The village is remote, tucked into mountains that kept it isolated for generations. Cats lounge in the blue alleys, mountain spring water flows from public fountains, and the pace of life moves as slowly as the mountains themselves. CHEFCHAOUEN proves that extreme does not always mean deadly. Sometimes it means extraordinarily, impossibly beautiful. Rising from the desert floor in Yemen stands a city that was building skyscrapers 500 years before the modern world. SHIBAM is a walled city of mud brick towers, some reaching 8 stories tall, earning it the nickname the Manhattan of the desert. Around 500 tower houses are packed within the ancient walls, all built entirely from mud bricks and reinforced with wood. These structures represent one of the oldest examples of vertical urban planning in human history. When the setting sun hits the towers, the entire city glows golden against the surrounding cliffs. But building with mud in a harsh climate comes with a price. The towers require constant maintenance, and heavy rains or flooding can cause devastating collapses. Families work continuously to preserve their ancient homes, applying fresh mud plaster and repairing damage. Living in SHIBAM means dedicating your life to maintaining a fragile masterpiece that has stood for half a millennium. Along a massive 150-kilometer-long cliff in Mali live one of the most remarkable cliff-dwelling peoples on Earth. The Dogon people have built their villages directly into the face of the Bandiagara escarpment. Some homes accessible only by climbing ropes and precarious ladders. Centuries ago, the Dogon fled to these cliffs to escape invaders and slave traders. They built an entire civilization in the vertical world, constructing homes, granaries, and burial chambers into the sheer rock face. Their unique culture, with its complex cosmology and stunning masked dances, has fascinated anthropologists for over a century. The children of the Dogon grow up climbing surfaces that would terrify most adults, moving confidently along ledges and up cliff faces hundreds of feet above the ground. It is a way of life passed down through countless generations, perfectly adapted to a vertical world most humans could never navigate. Could you raise your children on the face of a cliff? Now we travel to the most isolated inhabited place in the entire world. Tristan da Cunha is a tiny volcanic island in the South Atlantic Ocean, and the nearest other inhabited land is over 2,400 kilometers away. There is no airport. The only way to reach it is a boat journey of several days from South Africa. Around 250 people live on this remote speck of land. All descended from the original settlers and sharing just a handful of surnames. They live as farmers and fishermen, growing potatoes and catching lobster in the surrounding waters. The entire island is a single active volcano which erupted in 1961 and forced the whole population to evacuate to England. Here is what amazes me most. When the volcano calmed, almost every single resident chose to return to their impossibly isolated home rather than remain in modern England. They could not bear to live away from their island. What does it say about the human spirit that people would choose the most remote place on Earth over the comforts of the modern world? In the vast emptiness of the South Pacific lies an island with one of the most extraordinary origin stories in history. Pitcairn Island is home to around 50 people, and almost all of them are descended from the mutineers of HMS Bounty, who fled here in 1789 to escape the British Navy. After seizing control of their ship, the mutineers burned the Bounty in the bay to hide their presence and avoid capture. Their descendants have lived on this remote island ever since, cut off from the world. Today, a supply ship arrives only a few times each year, and missing it means waiting months for the next. The island has no airport and can only be reached by a challenging boat journey. The tiny population faces an uncertain future as young people increasingly leave for education and opportunity elsewhere. Could a community descended from mutineers, hidden from the world for over 200 years, survive into the next century? Only time will tell. In northwestern Iran stands a village that looks like it was carved by giants. Kandavan is a settlement of homes cut directly into cone-shaped rock formations, created by ancient volcanic eruptions and shaped by thousands of years of erosion. People have lived in these cave homes for over 700 years, hollowing out the soft volcanic rock to create cozy dwellings that stay cool in summer and warm in winter. From a distance, the village looks like a colony of giant termite mounds, or perhaps a scene from a fantasy film. Yet real families live inside these rock cones, complete with modern amenities added into ancient stone. The rock homes are remarkably efficient, using the natural insulation of the stone to regulate temperature without heating or cooling systems. Kandavan is one of only a handful of places in the world where people still live in cave homes carved from volcanic rock. Would you trade your modern house for a home inside a rock? Deep in the Egyptian desert, hundreds of kilometers from the nearest city, lies an ancient oasis that has sheltered life for thousands of years. Siwa Oasis is home to a unique Berber culture that developed in near-total isolation from the rest of Egypt. Until a paved road was built in the 1980s, Siwa was so cut off that its people developed their own language, their own customs, and their own distinct way of life. The oasis is famous for its date palms, olive groves, and natural springs that bubble up from beneath the desert. Ancient ruins here include a temple where Alexander the Great himself once sought guidance from an oracle. The traditional mud brick fortress of Shali dominates the old town, though much of it has melted away over the centuries from rare but destructive rains. Siwa represents a way of life almost untouched by the modern world. A green paradise surviving against all odds in one of the harshest deserts on the planet. We have journeyed far, my friends, so let us test your memory once more with our second quiz question. Here it is. We visited a town in the United States that has a population of exactly one single person. Do you remember the name of that town? Was it A. Whittier, B. SUPAI, or C. Monowi? Take a moment, think back, and drop your answer in the comments as A, B, or C. And while you are there, tell me this too. Which village so far has surprised you the most? I read every comment, and I would love to know which of these extreme places captured your imagination. Now, let us press onward, because some of the most extreme villages are still ahead. At the very northern tip of Alaska sits the town of Utqiagvik, formerly known as Barrow, the northernmost town in the United States. Here, life is governed by two extreme phenomena that most humans will never experience. For 65 days every winter, the sun does not rise at all. The town exists in complete polar darkness, a night that lasts over 2 months. Then, in summer, the opposite occurs. For 82 days, the sun never sets, bathing the town in perpetual daylight. Imagine your body trying to sleep when the sun shines at midnight or waking up to darkness at noon. The 4,000 residents, many of them Inupiat people who have lived here for thousands of years, survive by hunting whales, seals, and caribou. The town is not connected to any road system, accessible only by plane. Living here means adapting your entire body and mind to a rhythm of light and darkness completely unlike anywhere else in the inhabited world. We now travel to what many scientists consider the most inhospitable place on Earth. The Danakil Depression in Ethiopia is one of the hottest inhabited places on the planet, with average temperatures exceeding 34 degrees Celsius and summer highs above 50 degrees. The Afar people have lived in this alien landscape for thousands of years, mining salt from vast salt flats and transporting it by camel caravan across the desert. The landscape looks like another planet, with bubbling acid pools, toxic gas vents, and neon-colored mineral deposits. Volcanic activity constantly reshapes the ground. The salt miners work in brutal heat, cutting slabs of salt by hand and loading them onto camels for a journey that can take days. It is some of the hardest labor imaginable in some of the most extreme conditions on Earth. Yet generations of Afar people have made this hellish landscape their home, adapting to heat that would kill most humans within days. On the largest lake in Southeast Asia, entire communities live their lives without ever touching solid ground. The floating villages of Tonle Sap in Cambodia are home to thousands of people whose houses, schools, shops, and even churches float upon the water. What makes this lake extraordinary is that it changes size dramatically with the seasons. During the wet season, the lake swells to nearly 6 times its dry season size, forcing the floating villages to constantly adjust. Homes are built on floating platforms or tall stilts, rising and falling with the water level throughout the year. Children paddle boats to school. Families raise fish in cages beneath their homes. Entire markets float on the water, with vendors selling goods from boat to boat. It is a way of life completely tied to the rhythms of the lake, where solid ground is a distant concept and everything, quite literally, floats. Could you raise a family on water that changes size with the seasons? In the misty mountains of northern Iran sits a village built so steeply into the mountainside that cars cannot enter at all. In Mosul, the rooftops of lower houses serve as the streets and courtyards for the houses above them. This unique vertical arrangement, developed over 1,000 years, means the entire village is interconnected, with your neighbor's roof being your front yard. No vehicles are allowed, and none could navigate the steep, stepped pathways anyway. Everything must be carried by hand, or, in the past, by donkey. The village is often shrouded in mountain fog, giving it a mystical, dreamlike quality. Its distinctive yellow buildings cling to the mountainside, connected by a maze of stairs, terraces, and interconnected rooftops. Mosul has existed for over 1,000 years, a testament to how humans can build thriving communities even on the steepest, most challenging terrain. Across the frozen tundra of northern Siberia roam some of the last true nomads on Earth. The Nenets people have herded reindeer across this brutal Arctic landscape for over 1,000 years, migrating thousands of kilometers each year with their herds. These people do not live in permanent villages at all. Instead, their homes are portable tents called chums, which they pack up and move constantly as they follow the reindeer across the tundra. They endure temperatures that plunge below -50 degrees Celsius, sleeping in tents on the open Arctic. The Nenets survive almost entirely off their reindeer, using them for food, clothing, shelter, and transport. Their entire existence is tied to these animals and to a nomadic way of life that has barely changed in 1,000 years. As the modern world and climate change encroach on their territory, the Nenets fight to preserve one of the last truly nomadic cultures on the planet. Off the coast of Myanmar live a people who spend almost their entire lives on the open ocean. The Moken, often called sea gypsies, are a nomadic people who live on boats, moving between islands and spending as much as 8 months of every year at sea. These remarkable people have adapted so completely to ocean life that their children can see clearly underwater, an ability most humans do not possess. They can hold their breath for extraordinary lengths of time and dive to great depths to gather food from the sea floor. They have almost no possessions, living simply on their wooden boats. The Moken famously survived the devastating 2004 tsunami because their traditional knowledge warned them of the coming disaster. Reading the signs of the ocean, they fled to safety before the waves struck. Yet their ancient way of life is under threat as modern borders and regulations make their traditional nomadic sea existence increasingly difficult to maintain. In the heart of Mali stands the largest mud brick building in the entire world, and around it an ancient village that has thrived for centuries. Jena is famous for its great mosque, an enormous structure built entirely from mud and rebuilt by the community every single year. Each spring, the entire village comes together for a festival to replaster the massive mosque with fresh mud, repairing the damage caused by the rainy season. It is a tradition that binds the community together, passed down through countless generations. The mosque, with its distinctive towers and wooden beams jutting from the walls, is a masterpiece of mud architecture. The village around it is equally remarkable, with narrow streets and traditional mud homes that require constant maintenance. Living in Jena means participating in an ancient cycle of building and rebuilding, of working with the earth itself to maintain a way of life stretching back over 800 years. On a lake in Venezuela exists a village that experiences one of the most extraordinary natural phenomena on the entire planet. The stilt villages of Lake Maracaibo sit beneath a sky where lightning strikes almost every single night, up to 300 nights per year. This phenomenon, known as the Catatumbo lightning, produces some of the most frequent lightning strikes anywhere on Earth. The night sky lights up with an almost continuous electrical storm, so reliable that sailors once used it as a natural lighthouse for navigation. The villagers have lived beneath this eternal lightning storm for generations. The houses are built on stilts above the water, and in fact, these stilt villages gave Venezuela its name, meaning Little Venice. Living here means falling asleep to the constant flash and rumble of lightning, an eternal storm that has raged above this lake for as long as anyone can remember. Would you be able to sleep beneath a sky that never stops flashing with lightning? For our final and perhaps most haunting destination, we travel to a place where people have chosen to live in one of the most contaminated environments on Earth. Following the 1986 nuclear disaster at Chernobyl, the entire region was evacuated and declared too dangerous for human habitation. Yet within weeks, some elderly residents began quietly returning to their abandoned homes. Today, a small number of people, mostly elderly women, live illegally inside the Chernobyl exclusion zone. They grow their own vegetables in radioactive soil, drink water from contaminated wells, and refuse to leave the homes where they raised their families. Astonishingly, many of these returnees have outlived the relatives who evacuated to safer areas. They argue that home is more important than safety, that the stress of leaving would have killed them faster than the radiation. They live surrounded by an eerie wilderness where nature has reclaimed abandoned towns, where wolves and wild horses roam empty streets. These are people who chose to return to a poisoned land simply because it was home. And perhaps that tells us everything about the extraordinary power of the human connection to place. From the highest town in the clouds to villages living beneath eternal lightning. From communities frozen in eternal Arctic night to families living in the radioactive ruins of Chernobyl. We have journeyed to the very edges of human possibility, to the places where life itself seems impossible and yet, against all odds, endures. What unites all of these extraordinary people is something powerful and deeply human. The refusal to give up, the ability to adapt, the fierce, unbreakable connection to home, no matter how extreme, no matter how dangerous, no matter how impossible. Now, as promised, let me reveal the answers to our quizzes. For the first question, the town where it is illegal to die is B. LONGYEARBYEN in Norway, because the frozen ground prevents bodies from decomposing. And for the second question, the American town with a population of exactly 1 person is C. MONOWAY, home to the remarkable Elsie Isla. How did you do? Let me know in the comments if you got both answers right. And here is my final question for you, the one I promised at the very beginning. Of all these 35 extreme villages, which one could you actually survive in? Which one could you call home? Drop your answer in the comments below and let us see who among you truly has the spirit of a survivor. If you enjoyed this journey to the edges of the world, make sure you are subscribed to Hidden Horizons Studio, because we explore the places most people will never see. Give this video a like if it amazed you, share it with someone who loves adventure, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next journey. Thank you for traveling with us to the most extreme corners of our planet. Until next time, keep exploring, Keep wondering and never stop seeking the hidden horizons of our incredible world.